Chapter 13, Psychology Talk by Kelly Marie Ginsberg. Weekend mornings were newspaper mornings at my house. We got the Minneapolis Tribune on Sunday, but Saturdays were reserved for the St. Martin Sentinel, our local weekly. My dad had the sports, and Mom was reading the editorials. I poured myself some orange juice and sat down with the front section. The Sentinel was more of a family tradition than a really good paper because not much ever happened in our sleepy little city. I breezed quickly through the headlines, nothing interesting as usual, until one word popped off the page at me. Chicken. Teens call 911 to rescue chicken after wild party. My blood froze. I read on, hoping against hope that the article was about some other chicken. A teen party got out of hand last night, and a defenseless animal nearly paid the price. The fire department was called to 18 Apple Blossom Lane to rescue someone named Henrietta, only to discover that Henrietta was not a person, but a chicken belonging to Milo Neal, son of the famous Victor Neal. The chicken, which figures in young Neal's science project, became frightened when the party grew rowdy and fled via an attic window, marooning herself in a tall apple tree. I dropped the paper as it burned through my fingers. Those stupid, brainless morons! My mother jumped. What is it, dear? I showed her the article. And I know who did it, too! Joey and Lynette! They had Henrietta this weekend, and that's Lynette's address! Dad read over Mom's shoulder. Yeah, I remember when we used to do stuff like this back in the frat house, he chuckled. It's all in fun. It wasn't much fun for Henrietta, I seethed. Poor little sweetie, she could have been lost or even killed. Not to mention that she was running loose in a party full of crazy people she could have been stomped on. Now, Kelly, my mother warned, I hope you're not planning to do anything any rash. I was already lacing my second sneaker. I'm going to take Henrietta from those incompetent low-grade nitwits! I knocked on the door of 18 Apple Blossom Lane. The lady who answered looked a lot like Lynette, so I assumed she was Mrs. Martinez. Hi, I greeted. Is Lynette here? Mrs. Martinez's brow clouded. Lynette is grounded for the week. And if you were at that awful party last night, you should be grounded too. Oh, I wasn't even invited, I had defended myself. I noted that she was wearing sweats and holding a huge green garbage bag. Obviously, the cleanup from last night was a major operation. What I really wanted you to know, is Henrietta still here? Miss Martinez frowned. I told you Lynette isn't seeing any of her friends for at least a week. She glanced at the garbage bag. Maybe 2. No, I mean Henrietta, the chicken! Mrs. Martinez's mouth dropped open. There was a chicken? She recovered a little. Well, I suppose that would explain the feathers and, other things we found in the rec room. I thanked her and left, heading double speed for the only other place Henrietta could be, Milo's house. Mrs. Neal let me in. We've been expecting you, Kelly Marie, she beamed, throwing the door wide open and ushering me in as though I were visiting royalty. I stared at her. How did you know I was coming? But then I caught sight of the living room. Draped in various poses around the comfortable furniture were Milo, Zachary, Adam, and Joey. Hi, said Adam weakly. I swooped down like an avenging angel. Don't hi me! I could kill you guys! Twice! Where's Henrietta? In the kitchen with the vet, said Milo. I think she has a fever. I looked daggers at Joey. You and your wacko girlfriend couldn't leave well enough alone! She's not my girlfriend anymore, said Joey, tight-lipped. I snorted with disgust. Don't worry, you and Lynette are getting married. Why ruin 2 houses? Zachary spoke up. How did you know there was a party? The whole town knows! You idiots made the paper! Mrs. Baggio's probably reading about it right now! She already phoned, Milo said mournfully. Mrs. Neal appeared carrying a tray loaded with bagels and muffins and steaming mugs of hot chocolate. I'm so thrilled that you all came over today, she smiled, setting everything on the coffee table. I cocked an eyebrow. Mrs. Neal must have been pretty worried about her son not having any friends. Here we were in a sickbed vigil for Henrietta, and Milo's mother was acting like this was a tea party. The guys fell on the food like ravenous tigers. I sipped a bit of chocolate. You must really be broken up over Henrietta, I said sarcastically. Your appetites are suffering. It's not going to help the specimen if we starve, offered Zachary. Oh, you too with the specimen, I exclaimed. If you sit too close to Milo, he rubs off on you. We all rose as Dr. Siltnen, the veterinarian, appeared in the doorway, holding Henrietta wrapped in a wool blanket. Well, Milo, you have a pretty sick bird here, I heard Joey gulp. Is she going to, die? She suffered a severe chill, the vet replied. I'm prescribing antibiotics to prevent it from turning into pneumonia. If you keep her warm and quiet, she should be back to normal in a few days. I heaved a tremendous sigh. Thank you, Dr. Silton, you're the greatest. But Adam Hockey is my life. Lurie had to open his mouth and prove what a low-down, two-faced, selfish pig he is. But we've got a game on Monday. She could come to the rink, right? Absolutely not, the vet said firmly. Cold, damp air is exactly what you have to avoid. Adam was in agony. But she's not that cold. We'll wrap her up. Some hot water bottle. We'll get her a heater. Oh, please. With all my might, I stomped on his foot. It shut him up in a flash. If he'd opened his mouth, a shriek would have come out. No, the doctor was adamant. The chicken is not to leave the house for the next 72 hours. We're playing Mount Carmel, Joey said hopefully. They're the worst team in the state. Maybe we could beat them without Henrietta. Henrietta squawked, not her usual perky, energetic sound, but a weak, pitiful mew. My heart broke in two. So I began a long lecture, heavy on the psychology, about what was wrong with each and every one of those insects, and what would happen to them if they ever mistreated Henrietta again. Chapter 14, downloaded from the hard disk of Zachary Gustafson. We meet at last. Scene 56. Exterior shot. The White House. Day. Finally, the moment has arrived. Our first ever contact with an alien race. The galactic spacecraft, which looks a little small, sets down on the White House launching pad. President Zot. Citizens of the world. Today we get our first glimpse of life forms from outside the Milky Way galaxy. Instead of opening, the spaceship door disintegrates, an example of the highly advanced technology of the space travelers. The Marine band strikes up a welcoming march. The captain emerges with his crew, Interstellar Chickens. Chickens?! I pulled back from the computer in disbelief. Why did I type that? I didn't plan for the interstellar visitors to be chickens. That's one of the problems of being a true natural writer. The story comes from your gut, not your brain. Why did my gut want chickens to be in We Meet at Last? I don't even like chickens! I only knew one, and she would be dead long before the Gala Hollywood opening for We Meet at Last. First the Brain Eaters, and now this! Why were all these chickens invading my screenplays? To get my mind off of my writing problems, I spent a lot of time at Milo's place that weekend. Officially, I was visiting the sick chicken. It was the perfect excuse to work on Milo a little more. Unfortunately, the whole world had the same idea. The house was like Epcot Center. It was packed. Kelly Marie practically lived there, fussing over Henrietta. There were also a lot of hockey players in and out, visiting their mascot and scarfing down the endless trays of snacks Mrs. Neal put out. Not to mention the constant boom, boom, boom of DV outside on the driveway, practicing his slap shot against the aluminum garage door. Being around so many Rangers was dangerous for a guy like me, but I took the heat to spend so much time with Milo. Dweeb, geek, suck up, loser. Oh, nobody actually said it out loud, but the words just kind of bubbled up from the background every time I managed to slide up to the man of the house. Naturally, Kelly Marie had to stick her nose into it. This is textbook psychology, she explained to the team. Zachary represents all your hidden insecurities. What a load of garbage, Adam groaned. Suddenly, Lafayette bounded in through the sliding door and stuffed a mitt full of snow down my shirt. Yeah! I jumped up and down, brushing it out. The carpet, warned Milo, giving me the warm guts look. Looks like I was manufacturing the snow in my belly button. See? Sorry, Kelly Marie was triumphant. When you pick on Zachary, you're really picking on yourselves. So how come I'm the one with the frozen stomach? I muttered, teeth chattering. In psychology, it's the same thing, she said smugly, and launched into another one of her famous lectures. She got the hockey player so riled that Steve grabbed me by the belt and Lafayette gave me a killer wedgie. Come on, I complained, my nails daggering if they held me up. I pointed at Kelly Marie. She's the one you're mad at! Yeah, Steve explained as the two muscleheads carried me out to the backyard, but you're not allowed to wedgie a girl! Sure you are, I exploded. It's the 90s! Girls can be firefighters and senators and astronauts. They can get wedgies too! As usual, my protest fell on deaf ears. They wrapped the back of my underwear over a fence post and hung me there, struggling and freezing. Through the frosted windows, I could make out Kelly Marie, toasty warm, still raving about psychology. Milo was the one who got me down. I was really impressed by the fact that he saw me hanging for only about 5 minutes before coming to rescue me. I decided to play up the friendship angle. Thanks, pal, I said when I'm on the ground again. You sure came through for me there. Milo looked stricken. I just can't believe any of this. I know, I sympathized. Who'd have thought a chicken could get so sick? Not that, he cried. I mean, why is everybody here? The experiment suffered a setback and I'm dealing with it, that's all. I shrugged. I guess they're worried about Henrietta. Worry has no medical value, raged Milo. Kelly Marie has taken over my house. Joey has red eyes from pining over Lynette and my specimen. My mother just sent him to take a nap in my bed. The hockey team is eating us out of house and home. How is that supposed to help a sick chicken? Secretly, I was celebrating. Milo never opened up like this to anybody. It probably meant we were turning into really close friends. I manufactured a sigh of shared suffering. These guys, they just don't understand the science like we do. In my mind, we weren't freezing in Milo's yard. We were sipping coconut frosties at Victor Neal's pool while Mel Gibson begged me to let him play President Zot. With stuff like that to look forward to, what's a wedgie here and there? In the meantime, I planned to take my revenge in little ways. On Monday, the Rangers had to play without Henrietta. If they stank, it meant they were going to straight down the drain the instant Milo put his project into the final phase. And I intended to be there, in the front row, with my dad's trumpet, to root big time, heart and soul, rah-rah, for the other team. Fade to black. Chapter 15, Rangers Update, Captain Adam Lurie reporting. Okay, I admit it wasn't Zachary's fault that we couldn't beat the worst team in the league. We had nobody to blame for ourselves that we wound up in a 5-5 tie with Mount Carmel, the state joke since Coach Crenshaw was a Ranger. Fine, we played lousy. For some crazy reason, we were useless without our mascot. But to suffer the added humiliation of one of our own South Middle School students cheering for Mount Carmel, that loser, worse, the #1 expert of professor of loserology at Loser U, it was too much. It was the end. So I arrived at school on Tuesday with a mission. Dweebicide. Zachary was a dead loser. And then I was going to find Milo and tell him that Henrietta was coming to our next game, even if she was in the final stages of bubonic plague. I didn't care if she was on a stretcher with a breathing tube in her beak and an IV sticking out of her wing. The Rangers weren't setting Blade to ice without our chicken. I found Zachary at a cafeteria table poring over one of his stupid screenplays. Would have been smart to sneak up on the little Benedict loser, but I was so mad I just blurted out, "You're dead, man!" He grabbed the script and bolted. I must say, for a loser, he was pretty fast. But no sixth grader was going to outrun a varsity athlete, and I had payback on my mind. "Heads up!" I called, hurdling some eighth graders who were working on a big poster. My foot cleared the tall girl's head by 1/4 of an inch. I hit the floor running and did a quick spinorama around the band teacher who was carrying a tuba under each arm. It slowed me a little, but I still caught sight of Zachary disappearing into the far stairwell. That meant he was probably headed for the science class. I flew down the stairs 3 at a time and pelted into the lab. There I saw exactly what I expected to see. Zachary doing the Gustafson shuffle right behind Mrs. Baggio. I was breathing hard and seeing red. My eyes must have been bulging out of my head. "Adam," the bat turned to me angrily. I was nailed for sure when Kelly Marie's voice rose above the general hum. "Look, it's Henrietta!" I wheeled. There was Milo, carrying that beautiful, adorable, essential chicken. "She's okay again?" I asked as the class burst into cheers and applause. "Dr. Siltonen said the specimen has made a 100% recovery," Milo announced. "I've weighed her, and considering the—" "Hello, sweetie!" shrieked Kelly Marie, making an end run and yanking the cage from Milo's hands. "Everybody missed you so much! You look wonderful!" I figured I'd better get it spelled out. I mean, she's okay to come to the rink, right? "If you're very careful with her," Milo said grudgingly. Henrietta squawked, and the whole class crowded around her. "Look how much she's grown! She's smiling! She's happy to be back! See, Henrietta, I'm wearing your favorite shirt! Look how many new feathers she's got!" Even the bag joined the admiration society. She and Kelly Marie placed the chicken back into the pen amidst the get well cards from almost every homeroom in the school. The class stood around like proud parents as Henrietta began poking and prodding the cards with her beak and taking the occasional bite out of the daisies Lynette had brought over. That was when I made my move. I cornered Zachary behind the Mars globe and lifted him up by his collar. "Well, loser, I hear you're a big hockey fan from Mount Carmel Junior High!" Naturally, the dweeb tried to weasel out of it. "It wasn't me, it was somebody else." "If you wanted to keep a low profile," I growled, "you should have left the trumpet at home!" "You got me all wrong," Zachary blubbered. "I was for you guys! Go Rangers!" "Well, it's too bad you won't be able to cheer us on anymore," I snarled. "If I see your ugly face within a mile of the rink, the whole team's going to snake over your neck." The dweeb flushed with anger. "Who wants to see your crummy old team?" I lifted him up another foot and braced him against the Henrietta feeding sign-up sheet. "You take that back! The Rangers are going all the way this year!" "Oh yeah?" Dweeb of Source was getting brave. "You couldn't even win a game against last-place team like Mount Carmel!" "Ha!" I cried. "With our mascot, we're unbeatable!" Zachary's eyes narrowed. An evil grin appeared on that smarmy face. "Well, how long do you think you're gonna have her?" he taunted, pointing over at Henrietta. "Look at her! She's almost full grown. As soon as she's an adult chicken, Milo's going to kill her and serve her up at the science fair!" This came at a lull in the conversation, so Zachary's last words echoed through the lab as if they'd been broadcast over the loudspeakers. A gasp went up like all the air was being sucked out of the room. I dropped the dweeb like a hot potato. All eyes turned from Zachary and me to Henrietta and Milo. "Milo, is it true?" quavered Sheila Martell in disbelief. "Of course not," scoffed Kelly Marie. "How could it be true?" But I took one look at Mrs. Baggio's stricken face, and I knew something was wrong. Certainly it's true, Milo said. He seemed totally amazed that we even had to speak. My project is on the food chain. The specimen is food. I've explained it several times. This isn't funny, snapped Kelly Marie nervously. Miss Baggio, make him cut it out! The bag ordered everyone to their seats. All right, she said, walking up and down in front of us. This has gone far enough. We've all sort of adopted Henrietta as a class pet, but let us never forget that she is Milo's project. The plan for her has always been the same. Throughout her life, we have given her food. That food did not merely disappear. By the science of the food chain, it helped her grow from a chick to a hen. And it will resurface when the meat is eaten at the science fair. The place went nuts. Everybody started babbling all at the same time. Kelly Marie was out of control, screaming at the top of her lungs. I guess I was pretty loud myself. Sheila was in tears, and Zachary was trying to offer support to Milo, who was shell-shocked. Even in the total chaos, Super Dweeb couldn't resist the opportunity to suck up. The bag had climbed on top of the teacher's desk and was waving her arms in a desperate attempt to restore order. Fat chance. If St. Martin had been selected by the Air Force for target bombing, the class couldn't have been more upset. Henrietta darted around her coop, knocking over her gilt well cards in agitation. You'd almost think she knew that she'd just been invited to lunch as the main course. As for me, I was the most miserable guy in the place. How many times in the history of sports has a team lost a championship because someone killed and ate their mascot? It was Kelly Marie who finally shut us up, and she did it with a voice that would have put an air raid siren to shame. Quiet! Quiet! Silence fell. Even the bag sat down. Kelly Marie faced Milo in a gunfighter stance. If looks could kill, California boy would have made it to the cemetery in plenty of time to greet his chicken. Milo, kneel, she began in a raspy voice that none of us even recognized. The science fair is in less than 3 weeks. Are you telling me that Henrietta has 2.5 weeks to live? Milo looked pretty shaken as he spent too much time adjusting his Bertrand St. Rene glasses. More or less, he admitted. You have to allow time for Arno's butcher shop to prepare the meat. But class, Mrs. Baggio made a feeble attempt to regain control. Don't worry, everybody, Kelly Marie overpowered her. It's never going to happen. Not in a million years.